Good afternoon, gamers, and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Games with Dave. Today, we're digging deep into the worm-riddled world of Sqwurmish, a new sci-fi skirmish game that recently funded on Kickstarter. And today, I am joined by the world's creator, Brian Colin from Creature Curation, and the amazing 3D designer for Malevolent Minis, Saul Blair. If you like sci-fi that's strange, your creature squishy and savage, and your tabletop games filled with killer minis, then this episode's for you. So sit back, relax, and have some fun. How you guys doing today?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I cut him off again. What was that, Saul?
Enjoying the rare bit of sunshine. So.
That's just me and Dave projecting through the screen here.
Radiating. We're just big balls of glorious fun. So I guess first I'll just kind of bounce between both of you with questions.
Cool.
And we'll see what's going on. So what was the impetus of Sqwurmish? Like, what got you to want to go from just like fast Grimm, which we've got here, the awesome RPG, to a skirmish game in the Grimm universe? Or the
it all started because my son, who's 15, he's been playing like Marvel Crisis Protocol. A couple years before that, he picked up a Western game at a local show, skirmish game, and he's been into more and more skirmish games, and I've been playing those with him. And while I was playing them, I knew that I had Forbidden Psalm on my shelf, a couple of versions of it. I had the core book, the expansion, I had the Dread Knights, like the vampire-y one. And I was like, well, if I'm playing these skirmish games, because I've always been just pretty much just an RPG and some board game stuff. I hadn't ever really delved into the skirmish side. But I was like, I should play some of the ones that are built on the Morkborg engine. And when I did that and played a couple of games of that, I was like, well, shoot, why not just build one in my own universe using the Forbidden Psalms rules, since it all kind of overlaps with the existing Morkborg engine, and go from there. And Saul and I had met at Granite State Comic-Con because he was doing miniatures for Brian Shutter for the Neon Lords, and also the game that you guys have coming out. And we met there and just kept running into each other for a couple of shows.
Nice.
Yeah, I really liked the idea of the Vast Grimm stuff. So when he said he was thinking of doing miniatures, I was like, well, if you need anybody to make them, I'm available.
Which was fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a great, like, big thanks to Doug Shute, who organizes the gaming side up at Granite State, for having both Brian and I up there and pairing us together, and then for Saul for coming out to the show and having that love connection happen.
Yeah, we all had the pleasure of meeting there. That was pretty cool. Yeah. That's how all of this basically came to be. Crazy. And yeah, Doug is awesome. I love Doug. So shout out to Doug. Saul, I mean, we got to start with the obvious. These minis are insane. Do you mind if I pop one up on the screen?
Oh, no, go ahead. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Bam. We have got the Devout Cultist, I believe this is. And dude, these things are insane. How much fun did you have taking these, like Brian's imagination, and turning them into something physical, like what will become physical like these?
Yeah, it was great. It was a change of pace for me, because like a lot of the stuff I've done, was like, well, I got started doing these things, just making minis for the band Gwar, and they're very cartoony and exaggerated, and with Neon Lords it kind of was the same thing. So it was cool, because it was like kind of I could still kind of lean into my own style, but it was like it had like a different, more of a horror kind of creepy effect, aesthetic to it than the Neon Lord stuff and Gwar stuff. So it was a lot of fun. It was a change of pace for me. It was also, I got to learn a lot. I'm still fairly, I've only been doing this professionally for a few years, and so it was a great opportunity to kind of get outside of my comfort zone. with something I was really interested in. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Still is, actually. I'm still working stuff. We got the main minis done, but there were some stretch goals that we hit that I'm still making stuff for. So yeah, it's still a lot of fun. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Now, with the stretch goals, how many minis did you hit exactly?
Well, we got all. Brian, you probably could speak better to that.
There's 340. I think we got 41 total,
Wow.
but that is let's see. So that is there were the 8 core class minis. There were 8 creature minis. There were the Neon 8, the Neon Lords 8 minis that were part of it. And then from there, we've unlocked a Grimm Horde pack, which is 8 different Grimm, and then a Space Raiders, which is 8 different Space Raiders or Space Pirates as well. We were pretty close to the next one, which was going to be either the next 8 monsters or the next 8 variation on the classes. I can't recall.
Yeah, I think the variations on classes were the next ones.
Yeah. And then we had a one bonus, like slight variant one that was a exclusive to the Grim Dork or Turbo Dork Grimm crossover paint pack. So you got like 5 paints that are very themed to the Grimm palette, along with that one variant mini.
Very nice. And speaking of the Grimm, I'll pop them up as well because I believe Saul had sent me these guys.
Oh,
yeah.
That's works in progress at that point.
Oh, whoop. Oh, okay.
Just some of the clothes are a little bit changed up, but yeah, that's the first half of the Grimm Horde that I've been working on, which I've actually gotten another one. Those 4 are actually all finished now, and then I got another one I finished up, and 3 more that are about 80% done. So yeah, that's.
I should have warned you before I popped that one up, I guess. So you could have said that's a work in progress image.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, they're not much different than that. The final project, they were missing a couple, like, buckles and clasps and things and some wrinkles and things on the clothes were really all that was missing.
All right. I didn't ruin anything then.
No,
not at all. In fact, I think I took early shots of those for Brian to use anyway, as because he likes to take the renders I do and actually turn them into art. So
yeah, kind of like the images that are in the background and in the promo image. I took Saul's 3D renderings, and then I took those in, and then I colored over top of them and posterized them, and did little doodles over top and behind them to make that art. And a lot of that art's actually in the books, in the rule books as well.
Nice. That's awesome.
There's nice screenshots go to use.
So, Brian, what kind of experience are you really aiming for with the design? Kind of brutal competition, narrative fun, or a mix of everything?
It's really more of a mix of everything, because you can play it solo, you can play it versus, you can play it co-op, you can do multiplayer where you're playing as teams. The stories in the scenario book, there's 13 scenarios, and the first 9 are 3 episode arcs. So you're going on specific missions, trying to achieve different goals in each segment of the mission, or some of them it's something at the very last of those three scenarios. So it allows you to level up your crew, upgrade your hideout, or wherever, like depending on the type of faction you are. Like you can be Space Raiders or a Legion or Devout or Harvesters. So you're trying to keep leveling up and getting better equipment and getting things that help you on the next scenario that you're going to. So it can be played just as a one-off, but it can also be more of a long-form campaign.
That's so cool. Saul, for you, were there really any sculpts that have, I guess you'd say, pushed you to the limit of what you thought was possible of?
Well, there was a lot of monsters with this set that we did. yeah, I had never done really creatures or monsters at all before, other than, I mean, I guess you could consider the Gwar guys monsters, but I'd never done animal type monsters. Like there's the what's it called? The Warhound, I think it's called. That's like a 6-legged dog creature. That was a lot of fun. So it let me those were kind of the most challenging thing, just because I hadn't done them before. But it was very useful when I had a question. I could always put it to Brian. He could just draw me a quick sketch or something was supposed to be like,
or send you a photo of like the head of what the original sculpt was.
Because you got the giant ones around there that you've made. So I was able to get some good references on some of the monsters and things. And so that was the newest thing for me, because I hadn't done like non-humanoids really yet. So those were kind of challenging. They turned out actually to be easier than I thought they would be. But they were a lot of fun to do, and they were a totally new direction for me with stuff that I was looking forward to doing. There was like some the Salazarites, which are like the little cave cricket things. I still have mental scars from looking at pictures of those things to get references. But yeah, so that was pretty much. Those things are horrifying.
they are. I think you just made Brian's day saying that.
Oh yeah.
Joy, how customizable are the war bands, Brian? Like, is there?
So you can randomly, like usually you randomly roll each of your characters. You can pick so you have five members of your war band. You can most of the stuff is random, but you can pick a specialist, and there's only one specialist per crew. And that, like, you can do that and pick it based on the faction that you're in, or you can do it different if you'd like. So, I mean, the whole idea is you don't need our minis. I'd love for people to use them, but you can kit bash and use whatever you've already got on your shelf. You can draw on a piece of paper and put that down. You can use a rock from your yard. You don't. It's minis agnostic. So the more people playing, the better. But you can take some of Saul's minis, cut an arm off one, glue it to another, and.
Yeah, we tried, as far as scale goes, we tried to make them at a good kind of scale that can fit with a lot of different things. So if you want to like sprinkle in some of your own stuff along with these, they should be at least very compatible. They're kind of about the 32 millimeter height, but then some of the models are a little lanky and stuff, so they should be able to fit in almost anywhere. I do use like a kind of your typical heroic scale when I'm making these, so the hands and heads are a little larger, feet are a little larger, so they won't match up to true scale stuff very well. But if you're really using them alongside like Warhammer minis or anything like that, it should be close to compatible.
Nice. So for folks that are unaware, where did you actually, you said you worked making the Gwar minis. You've got the Gwar hat, so that's cool.
Yeah.
What made you get into 3D design?
Well, I've been around miniatures like since I was a teenager. I worked at Games Workshop for several years in the late 90s and early 2000s, not making minis. I worked at the old headquarters in Glen Burnie on the sales team there. But when you work at Games Workshop, at the headquarters, you're kind of just surrounded by it all the time, and you don't usually go there if you're not a minis person anyway. So I used to do a lot of sculpting and green stuff and hacking things apart, and converting things. I've just been around the business, and then I went from Games Workshop to Wizards of the Coast, where I was at for 12 years. So I've kind of, even though I haven't been directly involved in the creation of the things, I've been immersed in it for my whole life. And, miniatures have always been kind of my passion. So when I finally, it was actually during the pandemic that I couldn't go anywhere, having anything to do, I started messing around with doing mostly like just taking meshes and stuff and putting them together in like some of these like freeware apps and things like that, and then got into 3D printing them and stuff. And I originally just did it because I've been friends with some of the guys from Gwar for a very long time, since my musician days, and then kind of rehooked up back with those guys several years ago, and they're all big gamers and very into miniatures. And I'd always talked about, I should do some minis for you guys. And finally, during the pandemic, that's kind of what started. I got around and just made minis for them, and didn't really consider it much of, doing it professionally until I took them to the guys, and Matt McGuire, who's their art director and plays a bunch of the secondary non-musician characters. He was like, man, we would buy these from you. You shouldn't just give them to us. We'll buy them. These are really good. So it made me think, well, hell, if those guys who were like artists that I really respect and have all my life, like think my stuff is good and that they want to buy it, I figured, hell, I could, just lean into it. And then I just stumbled into a chance meeting with Brian Shutter with the Neon Lord stuff, and his like Guar and Neon Lords kind of go hand in hand in a lot of ways. So it was kind of a natural fit, and it was the styles just matched up, the timing was right, and it just I just kind of fell into it, honestly. And turns out there's not a whole lot of people in the States that do this, and make themselves very available, and so it's just worked out. And it's been a lot of fun. I'd like to be able to do it, more, but it's kind of it's been great working with guys like Brian Colin and Brian Shutter, and guys who have given me a lot of freedom to kind of inject my own creativity into it and my own style. And I constantly give them updates on anything I'm working on, to get feedback, and rarely do they tell isn't great. Like, Shutter's probably the worst. He's like, that's awesome. Like, what I do. Great. And I love it, but yeah, so, it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And Raymond and Charles, I'm sorry, I had the comment section closed off on my screen. Thank you, Brian, for catching those questions.
Oh, sure, of course, yeah.
But welcome to the show, Raymond and Charles. Thanks for tuning in. Brian,
yes.
Could you kind of work? Jeez,
yes,
walk
I'm
me through.
Working.
I know you are. Could you walk me through kind of how a turn works in Sqwurmish?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So 1 player or 2 player, either way, you basically take turns with your party, your crew, your 5 people. You choose one. You move and take an action. Once you take an action, you can no longer move. So usually you move first, take your action. Actions, generally looting, fighting, whether it's a ranged attack or once you're within 1 inch of another person, you're in close combat. Uses the standard like RPG dice. So it has a similar mechanic to all the Borg stuff, where if you're attacking something, you're going to roll a d20, add your modifier. It's got to get a 12 or higher. So it's very similar in that everything kind of converts over very, very similarly. And just like the Grimm Expanse stuff, this has same battery sort of mechanics, where if there's a battery that's universal, holds 24 charges. Different weapons use different amounts of the battery, so it may use 6 charges every time you blast a pulse rifle. So you're knocking that down. You have a certain amount of gear that you can carry based on your strength. So you're kind of playing that up as you're going into a scenario. You're figuring out, strategizing each character as to, like, this one may be my longer range shooter, this one may be my brute strength person, but do they have a rebreather? Because if not, they're more susceptible to getting infected by a worm. That's one of the things with Sqwurmish. The worms are a lot more prevalent than in the RPG, only because it's like kind of forced on you. Because there's always a chance, if you are in close combat with something that has a Grimm parasite inside of them, you have to roll to see if you get it or not. But you can also have the worms removed in between scenarios or in the middle of battle. If somebody has worm extraction tools, and there's different tiers of that. Oh, but getting back to the gameplay, each player takes one of their models, moves it, activates it, does whatever action, and then once all the players have gone, then the threats go. And so threats will do stuff like, if it's in close combat, it will continue close combat on the closest model. If it's if it's far away and it doesn't and it has a ranged attack, it will move till it's in ranged and then attack. If it doesn't have a ranged attack, it will move to get into close combat. So it's all pretty planned out. So it's not like that. You don't need like a GM to dictate where something or how something is going to go. Yeah.
Very cool. And another thing with Wurms, you can also keep them as pets. I want to pop Raymond's question up here. Raymond asks, in terms of mission prep, do you choose a scenario first, then build crews, or vice versa?
So that's completely like up to the players. Like the way I've been playing it so far, except for like in playtesting, when I've been playing like with my son, it's like we each have a crew that we built. And then we go through and we'll know what the scenario is coming up. So we may decide to choose different gear depending on it, because, you know, anybody's going to be able to read the book and see like, okay, well, this is the condition of the planet that they're going to. This is what's going to happen. So I definitely know I want this and this, and then I'll load up my characters and then go in. You could totally do it blind and just not like turn the page to see what's on there and see how it goes. But if you're playing with somebody, whether versus or co-op with them, just make sure you agree on how you're going to do it before going in.
Very neat. I like it. Wow, my train of thought just went right out my ear. Jeez, that happens to me on occasion. Sorry about that.
No, no
2 or 3 times since we started this.
What's that?
That it's happened to me 2 or 3 times since we started.
Yeah. Oh, it happens with age, you know. It starts to happen as I climb that ladder. Geez, it keeps happening. I apologize, guys. I've got way too many things sitting in front of me here. What kind of paint jobs, Saul, and Brian, both, I guess, really, are you hoping to see? Like the more traditional Grimm Expanse paint jobs, or are you really hoping to see like more unique?
I'm just hoping to see people paint them.
Yeah. Like painted. You know, as I've after hitting my late 40s, I don't have I don't paint as much as I used to, because it's not as fun, because I got to wear these damn, you know, straps like anything. So I don't paint as much as I used to and would like to. So yeah, I always look forward to seeing other people paint them. Because, you know, I mean, I have my idea what I would do with them, but it's a lot more fun to see what other people do with it.
Very cool. Let's see. I'm going to pop up another one of Raymond's here. So I remember my old 40K days. Most of our tournaments require something like that, and the scenarios were revealed at the beginning of each round. And then with Malifaux, it was changed to roll flip scenarios and hire crews. That's much more efficient, I feel.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and you can really leave it up to however you want to play it. I think it depends. Like if you're there's a way to see what your total score is when going through the entire book, like the first scenario book, right? There's 13 scenarios. So you keep track of XP that you get, so you can see what your crew's all-time score is. So if you're keeping the same crew, you may have 1 or 2 people that you've hired that are back at your headquarters. So you may swap out 1 or 2 characters or some equipment, but like completely swapping out crews, maybe that's just a different approach that I hadn't thought about.
One thing I wanted to ask is, there's a little bit of a change with, I've got Vast Grimm on my hat.
Sure.
You've got Grimm Expanse. I have been out of the loop, as you know, for a few months. And what exactly is the difference between Vast Grimm and Grimm Expanse?
Grimm Expanse is going to be like the 1.5 or 2.0 version. It's going to have slightly more updated and modified rules, where I know Vast Grimm and a lot of the board books are looked at more as one-shot scenarios and like no like long form play. So I'm updating and modifying the rules to allow for better character leveling up, advancement, not to the point of like D&D or something like that, but just so that you can get XP, you can spend it on things, and you can continue to evolve your character and hope you make it through the universe before it collapses. So it's just a slight pivot there. Also, like I have full control over the Grimm Expanse IP, and so everything that I'm doing moving forward will be under that.
Very cool. And speaking of going forward, if you're prepared to get into this, there's some exciting changes coming up.
Exciting changes. Oh, yeah.
Exciting changes.
So, tariffs have been people have been sweating and stressing over this over the past couple of weeks with almost everybody gets most of their stuff manufactured overseas, especially in China. I know almost all of my books in the past have all been done that way. And I have been looking for a way to try and do as much as I can locally or within the US. And like Saul's going to be printing all of our minis that are part of this campaign. And that was already part of the big picture. And it wouldn't have been too difficult to get the Sqwurmish book printed in hardcover and pay those additional tariffs and all of that. But I wanted to look at have a bigger, broader vision of how I want to approach things moving forward. And knowing that I was going to implement a change with Grimm Expanse and other things, I had already prototyped these A5 size binders. They're very reminiscent of binders that we had as in middle school. They're just shorter and longer. I had these prototyped and I've been using them at my local game nights. And I thought, why not move Sqwurmish into this? Because I can get the binder manufactured in China, but all the guts and everything else and the next scenario book and the next thing that I put out can all be done here. And they're fun, cool ways to carry your stuff in just what you need to a game. And Neon Lords fits into the same kind of retro aesthetic as all the Grimm Expanse stuff. And so it seemed like a natural time to go ahead and do that. So I actually just announced that today to the Sqwurmish backers. And tomorrow the pledge manager will go live on GameFound with the Sqwurmish binder, the Neon Lords binder, and a Grimm Expanse binder. So yes, those. Originally, I was calling them OS organizers with the O, the S, and the second R capitalized, but it was a little confusing.
These things are so amazing looking. I cannot wait to get these. They're going to look so nice next to the Trapper Keeper that I already have.
Yes. It's like its little brother.
Yeah, they're amazing, man.
Nice.
So you said this is the pledge manager opens up tomorrow.
Yes.
And that's exciting. And I will make sure to put a link for that in the description for anyone watching and anyone that checks this out later so that they can get over there and support Battle Binders, because these things are so epic. I mean, there's no other way of putting it. I can't wait.
And, super excited about it. So is Brian Shutter. We're looking at doing a campaign later this year with additional Battle Binders content and additional binders. So I think this is going to be a fun rabbit hole for her to go down.
Plus we can here and don't have to worry about it. So
Yep.
And Raymond said, I have a lot of zines, and this would be a great addition to my sagging shelves.
Yes.
Mine as well. Mine are going to have a further bevel to them now. That is for sure. So these will be for zines, as you said. And I like it because I think it's actually, because I've got all your books, it's going to be a lot lighter on my back in my backpack.
Right.
I want to go here and there
because you can pick and choose what you want in there. And like even I've created and I've shared this on my Patreon, but I've created, where did I put them? Oh, here we go. One of the sheets inside here is I'm going to start calling GMs the network operators. So I've created a network operator sheet that while you're running an adventure, you can take notes and because I run games on the fly. And I always forget everything about the adventure, but I've got a place for the characters, like the crew, any motivations, their plot hooks, threat encounters, story beats, things like that to keep track of stuff. And I've actually started using it to take notes on adventures that I'm writing. So there's going to be assets like that are going to be free PDFs to download, to print out, a character build sheet that you can punch in and slide into your binders. So outside of just Sqwurmish, there's going to be things that are easy to add and beef out your binder.
Sick. Saul, another question. I'm going to be kind of all over the place now here. Another question I have for you: did the mechanics inform any of the mini design at all, or was it just make the minis and make them awesome?
Mostly when it came to equipment, things like that, like what kind of weapons to put on them or armor, and then a lot of things like in when you're making your character, there will be little odd trinkets and things that they can have. So stuff like that, it really did inform it. Like if you look on the devout cultist, she's got like a jawbone and some stuff like hooked to her waist there, and then I think one of the ones that was really fun with it was like the emo bots holding a teddy bear and some other stuff. So, like I would often be like, I would often hit up Brian and ask him like, hey, what should I put here? Like what would be a good idea for this? So yeah, and then with weapons, obviously it became important, as far as that goes. But so yeah, in that regard, it did. When it came to like, basically the, overall look of the model, he pretty much let me kind of do what I wanted to do. But there was, it's a little, the kind of art that Brian does is cool, but it can be a little abstract at times, to see things like details and stuff. So a lot of times I would have to, literally like ask him, to clarify some. But for the most part, he kind of let me do what I wanted to do with him. And yeah, so it worked out really good.
I'm always excited to see other people's interpretation of how stuff's written. So like I wanted to try to not have too much control over it, but also on the flip side, things that Saul did that changed things in the RPG side. Like I didn't ever account for rebreathers, and now rebreathers, like, because with Saul was showing me pictures of a couple of different rebreathers he was putting on some of the models, that then became a mechanic in the RPG. So
Nice.
there's little things like that like now, like armor, there's different tiers of rebreather, and they affect how easy it is to get infected by a worm, or like toxic atmosphere and Sqwurmish, like how different weather conditions can affect the model. And then also like your mega wrench that you did. Now that is a new weapon in the upcoming Grimm Expanse rulebook.
Yeah, the wrenches were a lot of fun. Rebreathers was fun too. I like, because I just figured like gas mask would be a thing that you would wear when there's like microscopic worms floating around.
Yeah, right. And like in rules, like since it's such a rules light RPG, like when I'm playing and stuff, people ask, I'm like, yeah, of course, yeah, you've got that. Yeah. But it was never actually something written into the rules at that point. But that really pushed, and I was like, yeah, okay, this needs to be in there.
I kind of felt like a lot of ways it was the rebreathers that I started using, because almost all the different characters that have them have a different one. Like, and it became really fun to make them. It was almost like a thing to kind of like a character development kind of thing. As I was making, but kind of like the harvester, he's got one that just kind of only covers the lower half of his face, and whereas some of the others have ones that cover like their eyes and everything. So yeah, it was cool to do those. Plus, you could kind of customize them and make them look cool. So
that's awesome. I love the collaborative effort between you two of like, oh, I really like that. I'm adding it to the game, and then you getting everything right down to the finer details. So that's perfect. And I've got to say that devout cultist, I want to pop it back up. She is horrifying looking with that, like a gape mouth. Just if I saw that coming, you would hear like 5-year-old Dave's high-pitched scream coming out of me as I started running in the other direction.
Well, I did things with these models. I wanted to give them like like my previous stuff is very cartoony and almost kind of silly in some ways. So I wanted to really kind of do something to emphasize like the creepiness and alienness of it. So like that model's a perfect example. Like when I was putting her together, I made her jaw just a little longer than it should actually be able to open, and then I lengthened her forearms just a slight bit so they're a little bit longer, and then really made sure that she kind of had those emaciated ribs, and but that kind of like I'm starving to death because I have worms in my body look. I just try to do little things for a lot of the models to just make them slightly odd and slightly off. But yeah, she's probably the best example of it because you can kind of really see her the way she's from her pose and all. And then the subtle things like the bionics and like cybernetic pieces and stuff that just pop up here and there. You know, just little things like that.
Well done. Very well done. Like, you definitely captured like that off-putting, like what you were saying, that vibe with that.
Slightly disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah. And Charles had actually.
What's weird, but something's weird. That was what I was going for.
Yep. Charles said he thinks it's a great format for expanding the content, talking about the battle binders. I missed popping that up, but I wanted to throw that up there. Yeah, what is for each of you? I'm back to the minis again. I'm all over the place. I apologize. I'm a scatterbrain. So, what is each of your personal favorite minis?
Oh, shoot. How can you pick just one?
From this set?
Yeah.
You can go first, Brian.
So I'm gonna cheat a little, and I'm going to pick one from the character pack and then one from the monster pack. Now they're all freaking great, and I love them. But I think I have to go with the Manchine for the character pack. That big monster claw crush, that big beefy claw, and the metal mohawk that, like, I can't grow hair here, so I can't have a mohawk. So if I could have a metal spiked mohawk, that would be freaking badass. And then the creatures, they're so good, but I have to go with the Turgis worm, only because that's the one I used on the cover of the Corvax Grimm book. That was the piece that like changed that original sculpture of that was the one that changed everything and started having things go down this worm route that made everything gross and disgusting. And so that has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun with those teeth. Making that one so that I could produce him and print him without having to put supports on all those teeth was really nice. But yeah, that one I have yet to actually get him to come out perfect yet. Like the last time I did it, like everything was great except for some reason his feet were flat. So I'm still working on him. But the sculpt itself is all done. I just got to get the production piece of it going. But he's getting there.
And Raymond chimed in while you're at it. Who's your favorite child? I was basically asking that, I guess, of each of them to pick of all the babies. And that's exactly what Brian said, all of his babies.
Yeah, if I had to pick a favorite, probably, I don't know. I really liked the emo bot a lot. He was the one I was most kind of dreading making because I don't have a lot of experience with hard surfaces and doing robots and things like that. So I think he wasn't he the last one I did, wasn't he, Brian?
Yeah, because we went back and forth on a couple of different iterations on it.
Yeah, the first one we did, I was like, this one kind of looks cool. I showed it to Brian. And he told me it looked like a minion, and then that's all I could see after that was a minion. So I just completely scrapped that one. So we went back and forth on him, and then I kind of stumbled on the tank tread idea, and he just kind of came together after that. But that one has a lot of character in it. So I like that one a lot. Even like down to the little remembrance candles he has out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see. So probably out of all of them that came, that one or the Devout one that you showed is one of my favorite, because she was actually the first one I did, and she kind of set the tone for him. So yeah. Oh, which one I'm forgetting that I really liked. If I had to pick a creature one, it was the Void Revenant.
That one turned out great.
The Void Revenant is cool, and we're gonna do that one in like a translucent green resin too. He should be pretty neat.
Yeah,
I really liked him. That'd be my favorite of the creature ones. But yeah, it's a toss up between the Devout and the Emo Bot for me on the others.
Yeah, that Devout Cultist is a pretty amazing model. And it reminds me of in The Mummy, when they open their mouths and all the flies come out. That's all I can think of. Like, only it's microscopic worms that are coming out in this case.
That's exactly what I was. So.
So I feel like I'm missing something here that we still need to touch on. Have I hit on everything, or are we?
I don't know. You've got the list in front of you, not me.
Yeah, I've gone through all my questions I wanted to ask you guys, but I want to make sure there's nothing I'm missing, because I feel like I missed something here.
Well,
I mean, we're always just up for chatting about all the things,
I'm good to just shoot the breeze.
There's other
I've got to get to play this more.
These projects on the horizon, and then even after we're finished fulfilling this Kickstarter and all, Brian and I have plans to do more minis and stuff down for things. I have some of the I had already done some alternate versions of some of the character classes, that we chose which ones we were going to go with. So I have stuff already, sitting there that we'll have, to use down the road the next time we want to do something.
Which shouldn't be too far out. Like the way I like to keep projects moving, it seems like there's, especially like moving to the zine format and being able to print, like once things start cycling through, especially if we can get ahead of certain things, I see the product to fulfillment cycle moving faster. Like, especially like I've got 2 other zines I'm working on right now that once I do a short crowdfunding window for those, like if I only do like a 2-week crowdfunding, get the money, print them, it's like a month later, people have their stuff because it's not being sent overseas, 45-day turnaround, 45 days on a boat. So if Saul and I talk ahead of time and plan for it and be like, okay, we're only going to have this many minis as part of this small campaign, and not try and make it something huge, but make it something that, okay, we know this can be done and turned around in a reasonable amount of time. I think we'll probably plan for that, because I want Sqwurmish once you play and you go through all 13 scenarios, I want you to be ready to start playing some more,
Right. And I think a lot of folks are, man. You have built like a really special world here, man. And
Thanks.
I cannot reiterate how much fun I had at Granite State for the brief game that we got to play. Of like,
Yes.
I could have sat there all day playing that game, it's so much fun, dude.
Yeah.
Next time, yes.
The books, I always a lot of time will judge a game, like how much I enjoy reading the books and looking through the manuals, and I that's the coolest thing about these books is just reading them. And I've never actually gotten to play Vast Grimm, so because I live in the middle of nowhere and I don't go anywhere. So,
maybe at PAX East or Unplugged or one of these upcoming shows we'll find.
Yeah, we'll be at Gen Con too. I'm going to be checking out for that. So I'll hopefully I'll get a chance at some point. I do go to the convention. Never seem to get into any of the games. So.
And it's rare that I run them now. So except late at in the evenings for friends, which is always we could make that happen.
Yep. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting to play it one day.
Oh, it's fun. Especially when you keep pet worms and nobody knows you're doing it, and you kind of I would have loved to have been able to take that further and been like, oh, here's my little worm. What the hell are you doing? Raymond said here, I want to pop this up. We played a Death Aboard the Conundrum last week, and my Goth Queen roommate ended up basically playing Marvin from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as an emo bot with a blast speaker for a mouth. That's awesome. Yeah, you work at a pretty quick pace, man. Like, I can't get over how fast you're able to and how you're able to keep ahead. It's just
a lot of stuff I do in advance. Like I have a lot. Usually, I have a lot already pre-done before doing any sort of crowdfunding. A lot of stuff I release at least a variation on some of the content to Patreon each month, and then it kind of evolves and changes and gets completely cleaned up by Walt, who does my editing. And then so when a new book is ready to come out, it should be most of the way there. Like the Sqwurmish book right now that it's split up into 3 books, it's being edited, and I just have to finish the art for the last 4 scenarios. So I have to craft these turrets and this door and these other things, because I'm photographing the terrain and putting that to layout. So, those 4 will be done hopefully before I head up to PAX East. So that those zines can be ready to be put to bed.
Man, I wish I worked.
What's that?
I worked like that. I never had anything quite done.
So you have to get it to okay, this is done. It's time to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I have this thing. I'll get a project about 90% done, and then I'll sit on it. I don't quite know how I want to finish it, but I'm also, like I said, still kind of new at this. I'm still learning how to manage my time because I have a day job that I have to do, which has varying degrees of busyness depending on the time of year. Yeah, it's been a struggle. Like, heck, I know with this project, we didn't have a lot of time to do the minis. I think I started on them in what was it, like November or something like that?
Right. Yeah, and then
wow,
it was after I got back from Gamehole Con, which was in October. So I know it had to, because that's when we really were, it was after that. So and then we launched the Kickstarter when.
Let's see, we're at the end of April, so that would have been early March.
Yeah, so I only had a few months to get all those done. I remember that. I know that the last one, the emo bot, literally it was the weekend before we launched it. Finishing that thing. So yeah, it was not a lot of time to do them, but it's, I don't know. Sometimes I work better under pressure. So, if I have to do it, but getting better at scheduling my time. The next thing after I'm done with the fulfillment of this, which I think I'm hoping to have everything ready so I can just bring it to Brian at Gen Con and I don't even have to ship it to him. So,
nice.
Which would be nice. After that, in September, we're doing round 2 of the Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland miniatures.
Awesome.
Set this time with some of the, with some alternate character classes and things, and then I know Brian has plans to expand upon the miniature stuff that he's done, as part of this Kickstarter with Sqwurmish. So we've been, excitedly looking forward to that. So once I wrap this stuff up, I'll be moving straight onto that, and then we're also doing Roller Brawl, which is a collaboration with myself, Brian Shutter, and Hunter Jackson and Matt McGuire from Gwar. Are the artists and some of the creators on it. And that's like a roller derby meets pro wrestling and skateboarding and stuff, all set in the Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland universe. But that's going to be like a board game, with, how we're going to get that made with all the new tariff insanity. We don't know, but luckily we're still kind of early in the development of it. So, but we've been showing it off a little bit, and that's been a lot of fun. So, yeah. I wish I planned things more like Brian does.
Well, I mean, part of it's also, I don't currently have a full-time gig, so I have to keep hustling if I want to keep a roof over my family's head. So, I got to keep burning and churning,
Yeah, I've got to say, I wish I were as organized as you, Brian, because you seem like a very well-organized person.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm the guy that's like, I've got to do all this work in this pile today. And then I just throw it up in the air, and I'm like, let's grab something to do.
Well, offline, I can talk about how I use Notion for scheduling projects, creating a calendar, organizing my days, figuring out this is what I need to do these days. This is when these conventions are. This is when these Kickstarters are. I try to, and everything's always in flux too, but at least it makes me feel like I'm keeping things organized,
Yep.
Yeah, that's It's great because that's all the stuff that I suck at. So
Well, I mean, for years I had my own graphic design studio and had a number of clients and other teammates and freelancers and interns and stuff like that. So I've gone through 5 different project management software tools. Every time I'm when everything's coming down and crashing around me because I've got too much shit to do, that's when all of a sudden it's you know what? I think I need to switch my project management tool and spend too much time on that when I should be focusing on something else. So I understand throwing everything up in the air, but I tend to throw it into a different bucket and then just kind of have to sort through it.
Yeah, see, I've got to get on that project management software, that's for sure. So we'll have to talk after we wrap up here.
Software developer in my as my regular job, so like I'm always buried in project management tools.
Yep.
Hate Jira.
I think Charles, that's in the comments, has seen me gone through at least 2 new, like jump to one and then jump to another one since he's been an active part of the community.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah, see, my project management software is up here, and as things start to glitch out as I hit closer and closer to 50, it's like this line of code just goes bloop, and it falls
there's
out.
no room anymore.
You got to see it today. It's like I had to turn notifications off on my computer because things were popping up, and I think that's what was causing my lapse of memory. As I'd see it pop up, and I'd be like, oh wait, no, don't look at that.
Yep.
Oh,
I've been sitting here working on a Raider the entire time we've been talking.
Yes.
Well, guys, that was all I had. I have had an absolute blast talking. Is there anything that either of you would like to close with and put out there to the universe?
No, I think I kind of mentioned all the upcoming stuff I'm doing. That's about it.
Tomorrow, Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, go to GameFound to the late pledges and track down Sqwurmish. It'll have what's currently on the Kickstarter campaign. It'll also have a Grimm Expanse binder that you showed, Dave, as well as a insert pack for that as well, the Network Operator toolkit. So if you're not into the Sqwurmish games, but if you're into the Grimm Expanse stuff, there'll be something there for you too. And if you're into creating stuff, put it out there, make it, just get it in front of people, get a couple people playing. The people that succeed at this are the ones that don't give up.
That is absolutely true. You gotta go for it, man. You gotta. All right. Well, Brian, Saul, thanks for joining me. Charles and Raymond and everybody else that tuned in, thanks for being part of this. Sorry I missed the comments at first. Other than that, if you enjoyed the episode, give it a thumbs up. Maybe think about subscribing. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day, folks. We'll catch you next time. And there will be a link to GameFound down below very shortly for everybody interested. But we will catch you next time.